She saved a class of alien kids and accidentally became the most famous human in the sector. Melissa Chen had exactly 47 minutes before her shift at the Kepler station's atmospheric regulation hub when the emergency alert pierced through her neural implant. The distress signal originated from Sector 7G, the education wing where various species' offspring learned mathematics, xenobiology, and the fundamentals of interstellar law. She wasn't security. She wasn't even supposed to be in that sector. But Melissa had spent 3 years as a structural engineer on Kepler Station, and she knew its bones better than anyone. When the alert specified catastrophic oxygen conversion failure, her training overrode protocol. The corridors blurred as she sprinted through the curved passageways, her mag boots adjusting automatically to the station's rotating sections. Daniel Rodriguez, the station's quantum communications officer, intercepted her at Junction 12. "Melissa, wait," Daniel's voice crackled through the comm. "Security's already en route. The atmospheric processors in the school module are cascading. They're saying it'll take 15 minutes for security to breach the emergency seals," Melissa interrupted, not slowing. "Those kids have maybe 8 before the oxygen mix becomes toxic to half the species in that classroom." Daniel fell into step beside her, his longer stride matching her desperate pace. They'd worked together on the station's expansion project, and he understood her engineer's mind, how she could visualize the station's systems like three-dimensional blueprints floating in space. "The Viren children can't process nitrogen above 40%, Daniel said, pulling up data on his wrist display as they ran. "And the Kelosan kids need the temperature maintained at exactly 297 Kelvin or their respiratory systems shut down." "I know," Melissa's jaw tightened. "The system's trying to compensate for something, probably a coolant leak in the primary exchanger. It's dumping nitrogen to balance the temperature drop, but that's going to suffocate the Viren before it helps the Kelosans." They reached the sealed blast doors of the education wing. Through the reinforced transparent aluminum viewport, Melissa could see the classroom, 32 children of 7 different species, their young teacher frantically trying to keep them calm as emergency lights bathed everything in red. The environmental readout on the door's panel made Melissa's stomach drop. Nitrogen, 53% and climbing. Oxygen, 29% and falling. Temperature, 289 Kelvin and dropping. "The manual override is fried," Daniel reported, his fingers dancing across the access panel. "The cascade corrupted the control algorithms. I can't even communicate with the door's processor." Melissa pressed her palm against the cold metal, her mind racing through possibilities. The station's architecture unfolded in her thoughts: power conduits, ventilation shafts, emergency systems. Then she saw it. "The thermal exchange tunnels," she said suddenly. "They run parallel to every habitation module. If I can access the one adjacent to this classroom, I can manually reroute the atmospheric feed." "Those tunnels aren't rated for human access during operation," Daniel protested. "The temperature differential alone is exactly what I need." Melissa was already moving toward the maintenance access hatch 20 meters down the corridor. "The heat from the active exchange system will trigger the emergency cooling protocol. If I can force a localized shutdown of the nitrogen feed and simultaneously open the oxygen reserve valves, the system will compensate by flooding that classroom with a balanced mix." Daniel grabbed her shoulder. "Melissa, those tunnels reach 400 Kelvin when the exchangers are active. Your suit can handle maybe 3 minutes before the heat shielding fails." She met his eyes. Through the viewport behind them, one of the Viren children, a small creature with iridescent skin and 4 delicate arms, had collapsed. The teacher was trying to revive it, her own movements becoming sluggish. "Then I'd better work fast." Melissa cycled through the maintenance hatch before Daniel could stop her. The thermal exchange tunnel was exactly as claustrophobic as she remembered from the blueprints. A cylindrical passage barely wide enough for her shoulders, lined with glowing heat exchangers that turned the air into a shimmering mirage. Her suit's temperature alarm activated immediately. External temp, 387 Kelvin and rising. The tunnel stretched 30 meters. Melissa crawled, the metal beneath her gloves hot enough that she could feel it through the insulation. Sweat began to pour down her face within seconds, her neural implants screaming warnings about heat stroke and equipment failure. 20 meters. Her heads-up display showed her suit's integrity at 83%. 15 meters. The oxygen reserve valve access panel should be right above her. Melissa craned her neck, searching the ceiling of the tunnel through the distorting heat waves. "Melissa, your core temperature is rising too fast," Daniel's voice came through, tight with worry. "You need to abort." Almost there. She spotted the panel, a recessed access hatch with manual override controls. The designers had never imagined someone would need to reach it from inside the tunnel during operation. 10 meters, suit integrity 61%. Melissa positioned herself beneath the panel and activated her suit's emergency tools. A magnetic driver extended from her right glove. She had to do this in the correct sequence. First, shut down the nitrogen feed by physically severing its control line. Then, open the oxygen reserves. Finally, trigger the emergency pressure equalization. The first bolt securing the panel refused to budge. Melissa's vision swam as the heat penetrated her suit's failing shields. She recalibrated the magnetic driver, pushing it to maximum torque. The bolt sheared off. Then the second. The panel fell away, revealing a nightmare tangle of color-coded conduits and manual valves. Nitrogen feed control should be the blue line with the double safety coupling. Daniel guided her, his voice her only anchor to the world outside the tunnel's inferno. Melissa found it. Her hands shook as she positioned the suit's cutting laser. One clean cut, and the nitrogen feed would stop. But if she miscalculated, if she severed the wrong line, she could flood the classroom with pure nitrogen or vacuum. Suit integrity, 42%. Core temperature, 311 Kelvin. She made the cut. The tunnel shuddered as pressure equalized. Through her implant, Melissa could see the atmospheric readings from the classroom beginning to shift. Nitrogen dropping, but oxygen wasn't rising fast enough. The oxygen reserve valve was a wheel mechanism, designed to be turned by maintenance robots with pneumatic strength. Melissa gripped it with both hands, her suit's servos whining in protest as she threw her entire body weight against it. It didn't move. "Come on," she growled through gritted teeth. The Viren child was dying, maybe already dead. Melissa braced her feet against the tunnel wall, her suit's structural integrity now at 28%, the heat cooking her alive inside her own armor. She pulled. The wheel turned, 1 rotation, 2, 3. Oxygen began flooding into the classroom. "It's working," Daniel's shout barely registered through Melissa's fatting consciousness. "The mix is stabilizing, temperature's rising, the Viren kid is breathing." The final step. Melissa fumbled for the emergency pressure equalization toggle, a simple mechanical switch that would balance the entire system and prevent any further cascade failures. Her vision tunneled. The heat was incredible, like being inside a star. She found the switch, pulled it. The tunnel's emergency systems activated, flooding her section with fire suppression foam. The sudden temperature drop shocked Melissa back to full awareness as the foam hardened around her, creating an insulated cocoon. "Melissa, Melissa, respond." Daniel's voice was frantic. "I'm here," she managed. "Did it work?" "Every single kid is stable. You did it. Security's breaching the door now. Everyone's safe." Melissa let her head fall back against the foam, her body shaking with exhaustion and relief. "Good. That's good." It took 20 minutes to extract her from the tunnel. By the time Daniel and the emergency crew pulled her out, the classroom had been evacuated, and the children were being examined by medical staff. Melissa's suit was a melted, half-destroyed ruin. She'd suffered second-degree burns on her hands and feet, and heat exhaustion that would keep her in medical for 3 days. But 32 children went home to their families that night. What Melissa didn't know, couldn't have known, was that one of those Virin children was the offspring of Ambassador Tiketh, the Virin Collective's representative to the Galactic Council. And the Kelasan teacher filming the evacuation for her emergency report had captured everything. A human woman crawling into an inferno, working with impossible precision while her suit literally melted around her, saving children of species she'd probably never even met before. The footage went viral across 17 star systems within hours. 3 days later, when Melissa finally emerged from medical, she found Daniel waiting with a data tablet and an expression somewhere between awe and concern. "You need to see this," he said. The tablet showed her face on every major news feed in the sector. The Virin Collective had issued a formal statement declaring her a hero of the children. The Kelasan Parliament had voted unanimously to grant her honorary citizenship. 6 different species governments had sent official commendations. "There's more," Daniel said gently. "The Galactic Council wants to meet you. They're calling you the Ambassador of Compassion. You've become, well, pretty much the most famous human in the sector." Melissa stared at the tablet, at her own heat-exhausted face frozen in the moment she emerged from that tunnel. She saw the children in the background, alive and reunited with their parents. She saw the Virin child who'd collapsed, awake now, all 4 arms wrapped around Ambassador Tiketh. "I just did what anyone would do," she said quietly. Daniel shook his head. "No, Melissa, you did what almost no one could do. You saw a problem, calculated a solution that would have killed most people to attempt, and you did it anyway because it was the only way to save them." He paused. "That's not what anyone would do. That's what a hero does." Melissa looked at her bandaged hands, then back at the tablet, at the faces of 32 children who were alive because she understood heat exchange systems and had been too stubborn to let physics or fear stop her. She thought about refusing the recognition, going back to her quiet life maintaining atmospheric regulators. But she looked at those children's faces again, Virin and Kelasan and species whose names she was still learning, and she understood something. She hadn't just saved 32 lives. She'd shown the galaxy what humanity could be when it chose compassion over caution, action over protocol. "Okay," Melissa said finally. "I'll meet with the council, but I'm not going alone." She looked at Daniel. "You helped me save those kids. You guided me through that tunnel. We did this together." Daniel's expression softened. "Together," he agreed. News of the human heroes, the engineer and the communications officer who'd saved the children, spread even faster than the original story. And in diplomatic chambers and family homes across the sector, people of 100 different species watched the footage and learned something about the small bipedal creatures from the little blue planet called Earth. They learned that humans, when faced with impossible choices, sometimes chose the impossible. And they succeeded anyway.